call the meeting to order. This is the Personnel Finance Committee meeting, and we kind of begin by going around the table and introducing ourselves. And so how about we begin on this side this time?
Dave Pritchett, committee member.
Connie Hillman, City of Brainerd Finance Director.
You can go around the table.
Am I next?
I think so.
Matt Holmstrom, paid on call firefighter.
Joey E. paid on call firefighter.
Also Brainerd City Administrator.
Dave Johnson, committee member.
Mary Cole, committee member, and we can go back to you, sir.
Doug Mitchell.
And Chief.
Corkin Western Brainerd, please.
Jim Farine, City Administrator Designated.
And
Spencer Biggett, Brainerd.
And welcome to all of you. So we'll begin right now with the approval of the bills, transfer of funds, and payments to contractors. Is there anything unusual there that we should be aware of?
I'm assuming that's general fund to public safety fund, although I'd be interested to know what $310,000 to the public safety fund would be. That'd be a lot of fun.
We'll have to ask Corky about that one.
Yes, it should be fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Other than that, move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there anything unusual there, Connie? Nothing. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And did your motion include the contractor payments?
Mm-hmm.
It did. Okay, just want to be clear. Okay, Assistant City Engineer hiring update. And are you talking about that, Patrick?
Yes, ma'am. You have before you the recommendation from the City Engineer and HR Coordinator Chris Schubert. They conducted interviews last week, and they were able to decide on Paul Sandy as the Assistant City Engineer. You will see that they're proposing a start date of August 17th, pay rate of Step A, which is that 85% of our current plan. Be willing to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay. Where is he from? Do you know?
Minnesota, Little Falls,
Okay.
originally. He's currently working out in North Dakota.
Okay. Okay. But he worked in Little Falls?
That's where he went to school.
Oh, okay.
It's contingent upon completion of the pre-employment background check.
Yeah, I'd move to approve the conditional job offer subject to pre-employment testing.
I second that.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
I was just wondering, was Jim involved in the interview process at all?
Jim. No.
Okay.
It typically is just the department head and the HR coordinator. Sure, I believe.
Unless it's a department head level position.
Okay.
Okay. So it's, any other discussion based on a satisfactory background check? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So now we will move to the Fire Relief Association, and two of the representatives are here. And why don't you just talk about it a little bit?
Well, we're coming back with our annual schedules this year, which discuss our benefit level for year of service. And each year we come and present whether our fund will support an increase, or if it needs to go down, or if it needs to stay flat. And this year we ran the schedules, and we're proposing a $250 per year service increase to our fund. And so I think the information you have in front of you is the schedule form that we've prepared, showing an increase from $8,500 per year of service to $8,750 per year of service. I think some of the important numbers to focus on there are the funding level and the surplus that we're showing in the fund. The fund, the way we've got it proposed to you, is got a what page is that? Page 4. It shows very bottom of page 4. It shows a $247,000 surplus, even after putting the increase into effect. Last year when we came in here, we were proposing a $152,000 surplus. This year we've gone even a little more conservative and showing a $247,000 surplus. Now I think the other important number to focus on is the municipal contribution shown at 0. And there's been a municipal contribution to our plan every year, and there still will be this year. Last year it was $47,000. About half of that was city contribution, and about half of that was redirected from our pay as members of the paid on call. Do a $3 redirect. So if you break the 47,000 down, what are the totals? There 22,625 was city, and 23,819 was paid on call contribution. So that's not factored into our schedule. We don't count on that money when we run that number. So when you see a $247,000 surplus, we don't have that money calculated in. So really you're probably looking at almost a $300,000 surplus in our fund, which we calculate will probably put us at about 108% funded, which means that if we paid out every member of the fire department, we'd still have 8% of our fund left. So that's where we came in last year. We came in at 108 after the schedules were completed and the year ended. The schedules are done with an assumption on how our assets will do in the market. And this year we went in with a number of 6%.
Any questions? I picked on them before the rest of you came here, so I do feel very comfortable with what they told me. I asked, is it actuarially sound? In other words, everybody quit all the same time. Is there enough money? And they assured me that there was.
So one thing about that comment, Mary, is if everybody quit at the same time, that's different than if everybody died at the same time.
Right.
Because if everybody dies at the same time, then they're all vested. If everybody quits at the same time, Joe and I, for instance, aren't even vested. We haven't been on 10 years. So we would get nothing. So would about half of the rest of the members on there. So if you look down that schedule, it shows the years of service that they have accrued. Mm-hmm. Nobody's eligible for anything until 10 years. So it's not It's not about quitting. It's about if there was a catastrophic event where you lost 37 firefighters at one time. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. Being funded to 100%. So.
And you told me that it's 10 years to begin to be vested,
Right.
but 20 years before you're fully vested.
At 10 you're at 60, and it's 4% a year after that until you get to 100% at 20 years.
Okay, and you have to be 50 to draw any of it. Is that
correct?
What I understood you to tell me?
That's correct.
So, what are your wishes?
I move to approve.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Please say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, you can still stay.
Listen to boys.
No, we're gonna depart. We'll come back at 7:30.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is the item 4. It's the loan subordination. And Connie, do you want to just briefly talk about that?
Currently, we're in second lien position already. The business is just refinancing the mortgage, and so we need to re-sign the loan subordination agreement papers. The papers weren't drafted yet when the packet went out. I got an email late this afternoon, and I forwarded on to the attorney for his approval. And I have not heard back from him.
So I move to approve to authorize staff to sign subordination agreement after the attorney reviews it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item 5, outside employment, conflict of interest. And Chief, do you want to come up and talk about that one?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Did you get a chance to look over the memo? Do you have
I
any
did.
questions
I did.
regarding that?
I did. Well, I had questions.
Okay.
Because currently this person is a city employee.
He is now,
He
correct?
is now. And I just don't feel comfortable with authorizing that. I made a few calls around today, and there are other businesses that can do it.
Sure.
So in a case like that, I feel the most ethical way and the best thing for transparency to the public would be to a minimum to get some of these quotes. Now, in the event that none of those pan out, or they can't do the job you actually need done,
Right.
saying you can do it and then talking with you and seeing what actually has to be done, maybe two different things. I don't know that. But I really am concerned about having a public employee come in and, have a very good job and a very good salary, and also has a little business on the side, so then takes over that. And it doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't meet the smell test.
Okay, and
So
that's why I brought it up.
I'm not going to support it.
Sure, and that's why I brought it up, and that's why we did review it with the city attorney, and he looked at the legal definition and how it would apply to the conflict and gave us the opinion that
I
it would
strongly recommend that every council member get this and read it. The plain reading of this would certainly indicate that there is a conflict. And I know that city attorneys traditionally try to make everything legal, whether it is or isn't.
Sure.
But when you read this, and it does say very clearly, it also applies to other officers in the city, not just the council. It seems to me there is a conflict, Corky. And as I say, it also identifies that if it can't be done anywhere else, then you may go ahead and do it. It also identifies that it takes a unanimous vote of the council, which you don't have. So I'm really wondering if this couldn't be held and have you do a little background and see if there are other opportunities.
There's definitely other companies. It would just be, can they provide the same service in a timely manner for the same price?
And that's a fair question.
Right.
And that's a fair question.
Yep.
But so far we haven't done that.
No, we haven't. The last vendor we used to travel to here and build up our squad cars, and he's subsequently sold out to a bigger company in the cities. So probably that's where we would get our other quotes from, is some of these other companies that are metro-based. And it would be then, do we have time involved with running our squad cars to and from there, and the staff time aligning that up and scheduling it? And two, looking at how busy they are compared to maybe the local company that isn't so busy and can meet our emergency needs when sirens break or radios go down, and be able to fix our stuff a little bit quicker. By doing this, you make us basically the only law enforcement agency probably in about a 30-mile square radius that can't use
But we're
this
the
company.
we're the only city that has hired
True.
the owner as our fire chief.
You're right, and that's
so
why I
that's
brought
a
it up.
whole different ballgame, Corky.
I think all of us have our hands up.
Well, whoever wants to.
Gabe was first.
Gabe, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just like to say, in the memo, I like what you presented here and what the city attorney said. Just secure quotes, secure honest quotes when anybody can provide the service. And if you can provide the best service for the least amount of money, it seems like the no-brainer to go that direction, because we want to take care of the taxpayers' money as best we can.
But we haven't done that. We haven't gotten quotes.
But he's recommending doing that.
That's what the
going forward.
recommendation
Right, we will going here forward. We didn't get quotes before
Well,
because he was local and he
okay.
provided the best service for
Okay,
us.
what it says here, recommended action is to authorize staff to continue a relationship with Squad Pro.
City attorney has recommended that going forward, we secure quotes from other vendors to help verify that Squad Pros is as low or lower than other companies available that can provide the same service.
Going forward, but we're talking now. What are we doing now? That's my question.
We would be doing this. That's Corky's
He's
memo.
started our cars before he was hired.
That's
So
what I
he's
see.
finishing those, the one's done, the one's nearly done. And then now, anytime we need work done, we'll have to get quotes. So if we have a broken siren, we'll have to call down and find out what other companies can get our car in and how much they'll charge us for, and figure out how we arrange to get the cars to them, to avoid that this being a conflict.
Now, I don't know if the local companies can do everything you need, but the only people I talked to were local auto service dealers. And the ones
Oh,
I
yeah.
talked with said, yeah, we can do that. Now,
What did you ask them about doing? Because I'm
I
not
asked
familiar
them
with
if
any
they
of
can
them.
recommission squad cars. And in each case, they asked me, maybe using a little different words, but they basically asked me, are you talking about taking police equipment off of a car and putting it on another car? And I said, pretty much. That's pretty much what it is. I said, I don't have all the details, but that's my understanding of it. And they said, yeah, we can do that.
Well,
So I'm
it'd be
just
interesting to know who they are and what
I'd be
experience
glad,
they have.
I don't know
doing
that,
it,
Corky,
um,
but I'd be glad to share some of that
Sure.
with you.
Okay, you can let me know who they are.
Yeah. So, you know,
That was basically.
I guess if I had a comment,
please.
I guess I'm not familiar with your reading of the statute. When it's a unanimous vote, it must be of council members. If it's an employee, I don't believe it requires unanimous, but we'll have to have the city attorney look at that. But I think interpretation is different than mine. I haven't looked at it for a couple of years, but I'm very familiar with it. When we had a council member who had an auto repair shop in another community, and he always excluded himself. But when it's an employee, I don't believe the statute is as restrictive that it be a unanimous vote of the city council.
And that may be. It says all persons in elected office must be aware of this law. In addition, many city employees and appointed officials may also need to be aware of this law.
That's aware of the law, but you cited specifically that it's a unanimous vote of the city council, which is a different area.
And no, it's just above it. It says, if the contract with an official is permitted under one of the exceptions, the following must be done. The council must approve the contract by unanimous vote.
And the definition of official is an elected official.
Well, no, it isn't. I just read that. But I'm not ready. We haven't got time to argue that.
The attorney can look at that.
So, well, yeah, and I hope he looks at it, and looks at it honestly. Because it really, it bothers me. I have nothing but respect for the new fire chief. And I called him and talked with him. I told him I don't blindside people. And I'm not going behind your back, but I said I'm very uncomfortable with this. And I am not likely to support it. And he thanked me. He was glad that at least I had talked with him. And that is true. I try not to blindside anyone. But I am not comfortable with it. And as I say, it gets to be, I think the public perception is also very bad. I think the public perception is very, very bad. So I'm not going to support it, but I only have one vote. So what is your feeling, gentlemen?
The way I read this, that, we're maintaining the relationship through 2015 to get the cars that are already set up finished,
Right.
and then to elicit quotes from other companies and decide where to go from there. I think that's
That
the
was
right
my
way to go.
intent.
Yeah. So that, move to approve.
I second that.
Okay, I will ask you to make that motion,
Okay.
and I'll give a minority report.
All right.
And can we, I don't know if it needs to be part of the motion, but just make sure we have the attorney reread
Oh, yeah.
471.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, me. So we go from there. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. The next item is the storm damage update. And I have to say, I thought our city crew did a wonderful job. I just don't know how they kept up with it. But they were out there from the time of the wind quit. You weren't here, were you, Dave?
I was here.
You were here? Oh, that's right, because I talked to you. Oh, God, that was awful. But anyway, who's updating us? That was terrible.
Most of our damage luckily was sustained with downed trees, the Parks Department. And we have opened up a claim with the League of Minnesota Cities. In order for the claim to pay out, we have to have $5,000 worth of damage. They will pay for the time it takes to removing the trees. They came and looked at the one of the roof of the warming house, but they said that it's only eligible for about half of it because it was so old to begin with. So we're just kind of accumulating, keeping track of expenses, and we'll see where it goes from here. I know that the Street and Sewer Department probably incurred some overtime because they were out Sunday night as well as later on during the day, and so we'll see where it all comes in as far as the budget goes. What they were doing clearing the streets is not eligible for the insurance claim.
Right. And Jeff told me that because the winter was so easy, that we may break even in
So
overtime. Yeah, we don't know. But I do think they did an outstanding job. And I wonder if it would be appropriate to send a letter of appreciation. I mean, I really felt our city crew. I know they were out because they were down my street at midnight, pushing the tree back, which was practically blocking the highway, and pushed it partly back, and cleaning up 2nd Street where the Eagles roof had flown off and was laying there, and they were out. And so it's informational, but would you support or just think it's dumb to recommend sending a letter of thanks to I guess all the city departments who were involved? Or what? Do you want to not do it?
Oh, I think it'd be fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, do we need a motion for that?
I think so.
I'd move to send a letter of commendation to all the departments.
And I second that.
I'm all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Motion carried. No, it was It was a great effort, and I hope we don't go through it again, but it certainly looks like a bad year.
If the county gets emergency funding, could we get some of that to offset our overtime costs for the work we've done?
I will check into that. I do not know how that works. I think they're mostly north.
That's where all
You know,
the
the main
main
damage
damage
was,
is.
but I will look into that. I'll research it.
Don't lose anything, we'll be into it. Good point. Okay, item 7, authorization to sell decommissioned car. Chief, I think you might as well just stay here. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, it's just kind of a formality. We need the council approval to authorize the sale of this piece of equipment that we've normally just sold through our standard practices of using the public surplus website. So
And that's what you will do.
yes, we will.
Right. And where does that money go when you sell it?
Back to the general fund.
To the police department operating fund.
Okay, okay.
That was my question too, just to figure it out.
So you used to offset some of the capital that we purchased this year, maybe some.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that's where it's always went.
Yes.
Oh, that's not what I've always been told. Okay.
I mean, if that's where this would go, yes.
Sure. Then that's where it's going.
So it's your wish.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And you have one more on the TZD grant.
I do. That's a Towards Zero Death federal traffic safety grant that we received. The Brainerd Police Department has longstanding been the administrative agency for that grant. This is a component that's required by the grant for it to be submitted for their next fiscal year, which is dated there October 1st, 2015, to go through September 30th, 2016. And that just authorizes me and the police department to enter into the agreement with the state to receive that grant and administer it.
And then you administer it to other departments in the area?
We do. The
How
sheriff's
large an
department.
area?
It usually ranges between the sheriff's department and 5 to 7 of the other police departments or the smaller municipalities. That's through scheduling and when we plan where we're going to have the target enforcement areas.
It says here minimal staff time. How much time are we talking?
Give an example of that. There's some meetings that are required. Actually, probably some of Connie's time. I imagine there's the billing aspect of it that comes in from the other cities where they submit for the reimbursement and then we send them money out of the grant. So some of her time. Tony Rundy actually does most of the scheduling for this. So there's some meetings probably at least twice a year where they pick some of the enforcement waves. They try and have them coincide with some of the different community special events. For example, last weekend it was just Emily Days. So they would target either speed enforcement or DWI enforcement, depending upon which wave we're in, to try and help those communities with increased traffic flow to make the events safer. JC's Ice Fishing Contest will have DWI enforcement. We'll target Highway 371 then. So we have a scheduling meeting in the beginning of the year, so everybody brings their events to the meeting, and then there's some discretionary money that we can pick other times of the year to post the enforcement. Some of Tony's time when he corresponds back and forth with the Office of Traffic Safety regarding some of the reporting stuff that he has to do for the grant. So, but nothing extraordinary that the staff has to encumber a lot of extra time.
And on your monthly reports to the city council on overtime, you specifically identified TDZ for our officers.
We do break it
So
Right.
it's not a substantial amount for our officers. I think more so that goes to the outlying cities.
Right, and you'll see that. Patrick's correct. We post our local shifts for speed enforcement, or sometimes our officers will go and work 371 all the way up to Pequot Lakes. It just depends upon where the target area is. The other thing to keep in mind is that we also bring in agencies from throughout the county to work here in Brainerd. So we may have a seatbelt enforcement wave on Washington Street in Brainerd, and that's where you'll get calls where people will call me and ask, why is the Breezy Point police car stopping cars here? This
I've
is
had
why.
those calls too.
Because we get the grant money and it helps us to saturate the roadway, because the big concept behind that is high visibility enforcement. The purpose of that is to be a deterrent. It's not necessarily so that we get to write more tickets.
Right.
It's that they see all these squad cars. It reminds people either slow down, buckle up, or don't drink and drive.
And in the overtime report, there's always a couple hours to TZD, and that's always 100% funded by this grant,
That's correct.
all of the overtime costs.
Right.
And this is a resolution,
It is.
so we'd have to say to move the resolution.
I Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Corky, while you're there, I wanted to ask you a question, if I may. It's a little bit not on the agenda. But you gave us your overtime report, and I saw it was a huge amount of hours for the 4th of July,
That's good.
85 or something. Approximately, well, I was guessing that at $40 an hour, but someone told me it was probably closer to 60. What about was that per hour on the overtime? What did that cost us about?
I'd have to do a breakdown because it's
Okay.
dictated by the officers that
Right.
worked it and what their rates are, because obviously the junior officers,
Right.
their rate isn't the same as the sergeants. So we'd have to really just do a cost analysis and take the cost of each officer.
Okay.
But the entry-level officer's making $23-24 an hour.
Right, so his
At double
overtime-
time, that's
right, yeah,
$50 an hour.
45, yeah. 50.
So we're probably looking at a minimum of $45 to $65
That's
an
probably
hour.
fair. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any way for budget you can get that together? When we do budget this year, I really want to look at.
And just show you what the 4th of July cost us
I
this
would
year.
like
Sure.
to know that. I figured out just from what I had figured on that,
Yeah, your numbers are probably pretty close.
you know. And those are all issues that will affect our budget, and we
Mhm.
should look at that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's an expensive day for us.
regardless of what anybody does about it, or however any vote goes, unless we have, the courage to look at the things that are happening in this city, we'll never make any changes. So, okay, I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you. Okay, authorization of continued employment, and no fire chief here. Who's talking about that one?
That's me.
Okay.
As in the memo that I provided by me, identifying that I'll be the one presenting. We've hired a new chief, Tim Holmes. He's on duty. He'll be here tonight for the pinning ceremony. Been on duty for a week. The interim chief, Chip Lowmiller, is done. His contract was very specific that he is done when the new chief is on. However, during his tenure, we found him to be very informative, knowledgeable, and we hopefully can utilize his skills and expertise to assist us in the upcoming months as we look at the next steps of what we want to do with the fire department. And at $25 an hour, as proposed, we believe we could utilize some of the savings from the salaries as identified in the memo.
Can you be specific as to how you think he'll save us money?
Well, if we think
Yeah.
$400,000 is expensive for full-time salaries and benefits, and that's the council's goal is to go away from full-time firefighters, that's our budgeted salary amount. And so
But how could he help us with that?
he's
Those
the
are
one
going to
who's
be some
knowledgeable
tough
about
decisions.
That's correct. And who's better to know what work's being done down there other than the full-time the fire chief that's been down there, who has for the last 4 months put together the data about who's working, what shifts aren't getting done, what's being done in the process. And by him being able to identify for us, and in our process of communicating through the last several months, he's identified that he is in support of the going to paid-on-call firefighters.
Are there any questions? Am I the only one who
Oh,
gets concerned about these things?
Really, my only question was, could we hire him just as a consultant as opposed to an employee? Just 1099 and $25 an
I
hour?
think
same
because
with
he already
payroll
has been
taxes?
an employee this year, we could look into that, but I don't know.
Because he'd be serving a different role. He wouldn't be our interim
Right.
fire chief. He would just be a
Right.
fire department consultant.
He would be a
And what
consultant.
the attorney identified is that he would write up a very simple contract versus the one where it was a couple pages for the interim fire chief. But because of the nature, we probably house him here, even though he's got an office in Cross Lake because he runs his own private business. But I guess there's that possibility we could explore that with him. But most importantly, I wanted to breach the topic with the council is if there's an interest in continuing to employ Mr. Lowmiller to help us in this process.
So would you want to have staff look into the potential of a contract?
Well, yeah, but I think we could make that motion right now just to approve keeping him on. I'll make a motion to approve keeping Mr. Lowmiller on as an employee if necessary, but try to work it as a consultant
If possible.
if possible.
And I will second that.
Okay. The other question I had about that is, I would feel better if we had a dollar limit on it. Now, I see in the memo that it said we're expecting to save approximately $7,000. Well, it would be really nice if we had at least part of that to carry over for next year's budget, or to see how this year's budget ends up. Could we limit that to, say, $2,500?
What I was thinking about is doing something similar to a Corky's report and tracking how much time we actually pay him, because that way council would be constantly aware of what we paid him on a different basis. Because this is a unique situation. We haven't done this before, and it came to me over the weekend when I was looking at Corky's report. So if you're okay with that, Mary?
I'm okay.
That way we're tracking it. I agree.
I'd
And
like
so
to
then
say
it gets
something.
2,000 or 3,000, you guys know that it's at 2,000 or 3,000.
Right.
You know, because even when we brought on Chip, we said 3 to 5 hours. We weren't sure, and by the time progressed, it was 5 to 6 hours a week, and a day. It got to be more and more as issues came up and topics came up, and so this way, I didn't talk to Connie because this would be more tracking time, but similar to the way we pay contractors. If we,
And so this would be, really, there'd be two caveats here. That we'll approve it, but we are asking that a contract be considered as versus the employee. And we are also asking that if it must be an employee, that there would be a tracking of the time so the city would be constantly aware of it.
employee or contractor, we
I think
track you.
Yeah, we track
Either one.
either way.
Okay, okay, so just add the tracking either way. Okay, is that agreeable with you?
Okay.
Any other discussion on that?
Just appreciate the good conversation and that you're willing to respond. So
We hope it pays off. We're also frustrated, I think, and there's no easy answer on some of this, and so, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9, decertification of TIF districts. And now, as Connie will tell you, I was so excited about that when I talked with her, and she disillusioned me immediately that we won't have any money until the end of the year.
This decertification would be effective December 31st, 2015. Basically, taxes are out, so they're considered TIF districts for this year. But we're just asking to pass the resolution. Two of the district, Willows and Thrifty Drug, we have met the obligation has been satisfied. The Walgreens is based on time. That one we said that payments were only going to be made through February 1st, 2015, rather than the whole statutory long of the district. And so we're asking to decertify all three of them.
Okay, and we have 3 separate resolutions, so we'll have to move each one, I would assume. I don't see
Doesn't have a
any.
number on it.
I don't see any.
no, based upon action before, we don't know which number you might
Okay.
have.
Well, we'll just say the first one deals with district number 4-8,
Yep.
and the second one 4-9, and 4-10, I guess.
12.
Or what is it? Oh,
12.
Right, so we'll just go.
I move that we adopt the resolution regarding property 4-8.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I move we adopt the resolution addressing property number 4-9.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I move we adopt the resolution addressing property number 4-12.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, we have that at least ready to report. Could we go to 11 and then come back to 10 so that we're sure we get 11 done? We seem to have a lot of time.
Mr. Steinman
Oh,
is
is
not
he
here.
coming?
He is coming to the
Oh,
PNN.
well, then we'll just have to wait for
Basically, we can just kind of recap the bond sold today. The 2015 Series B, which is the CIP and the new money, it ended up being a net savings of about $66,000. The 2015 C issue was about 70,000 because the total was 141 between the two issues, I do believe. That was the net present value savings. So it definitely came in good. Our bond rating was affirmed at the AA- with a stable outlook for the future. So
But you would prefer we wait and
if you
get
want
it?
to, but that was basically the summary. We don't pass out the information, but that's basically the stable outlook. I've learned a lot by going through the bond rating calls on things that we can improve. I definitely know before the next bond rating call that we want to look at the capital improvement plan. We adopted the one in 2015 13. And that was definitely something they said, to revisit on an annual basis. And so we'll develop a policy and get that through. It's partly based on our economy, and there's just not a whole lot we can do about that at this point. But I was very happy that it was a AA- confirmed rating.
Okay. So the rating is AA minus. And the interest, or the savings,
Was off the top of my mind, it was like 66,000 and 70 some thousand. So a net together was right around that 140. I could have the numbers incorrect. I apologize.
So savings was about 100. Well, thank you.
Between the
David.
two issues, yes.
Which was more than we originally expected, right?
A little bit, about
Okay.
10,000, 5,000, 10,000.
So those figures then will be reflected in the information you give us on bonds for the budget.
The 2015 C issue is a refunding, so we'll get the bonds, but we actually won't pay the new bonds off, or the old bonds off until 2016. So that is a little bit different.
Right.
We have to pay the EDA. The EDA one will be current, so that'll be surely reflected. But yes, we will do the best job that we can.
So should help us.
It's over the regular life of the bond,
Right.
so it's not going to be 141,000 for next year's savings. This
Right,
is what
but
we're
it'll be
at.
something.
Right.
Every little bit helps.
It's not a deficit.
That's right. That's the way I like to look at it. So, okay, well, I appreciate that. And those figures are after we paid what we have to pay, because there was a cost to us.
And that's why it's kind of use the term present value.
Yeah.
The net present value savings.
Okay, thank you. Now we can go back to budget, and coming up fast, so I guess have to start thinking about it. And what Connie would like us to work on tonight is discussion and content of the workshop, which is August 10th, and schedule the department head meetings with them. And here is what I would like to do, and if you guys can't do it, then you can't do it. I would like to have those meetings prior to the 10th.
I would too, because I'm going to be in Rochester on the 10th.
Ah, you guys. Really?
Yes.
Not sick, are you?
No,
You're just going out in the tube?
no, I have a debate camp there.
Oh, geez.
Run every year.
Oh, all right, Dave, I'm sorry. Dave,
So I'll be gone that week.
Connie was a little concerned because Connie's family are deeply involved in the fair and she needs some time off during that time period and she should take it, and I want her to take it, but I told her that I felt that the council's discussions with the department heads did not so much rely on her being there or being able to provide a lot. I saw them, just hear me out. I saw them more as a dialogue with them. For example, we sit down with, who shall we pick on? The park director?
Do me. I'm a department head, so
Okay.
let's have the dialogue with you.
All right, we'll sit down and we'll pick on Connie. And we'll say, all right, Connie, you're the finance director, and would you go through what you saw as perhaps deficiencies in the budget we did for this year, and what would be your thoughts on what we need next year? What are the priorities in your department? Are there some things that we could do without? Do you have some suggestions to make your department more efficient? Just the dialogue, and then, going the same thing to all of them, letting them tell us one-on-one what they saw or see maybe as deficiencies and as priorities. And then just having an honest discussion with each one. I think that dialogue, I go back to my county board days, but that was how the county board worked with it. They always met with the individual department heads. And it wasn't a waste of time. It was, first of all, you opened up a better dialogue with them. And I think they were more comfortable talking about things. And not only that, but sometimes a department head can identify things that may be peripheral to the budget, but not totally part of it. but as they discuss it, you see there's more of a relationship to what they talk about in budget. Those are just some of the ideas, and I just want us to go ahead with that really badly.
I think it would be a great idea. My fear is that we're not giving the department heads enough time. I mean, they really need their budget worksheets. They basically need to have their budget prepared ahead of time. And I just think at this point they haven't got the budget worksheets because I wanted to get the personnel costs so they could see what their current staff level, what that would mean. I have not had time to do that for them yet, therefore they do not have their budget worksheets. So you're asking them in about a week's time to really have their budget together and be able to prepare. And I'm just afraid that if you do the meetings before the 10th, that they will not have time to adequately prepare for it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we could ask them and say, what do you know?
What would be the difference of having it the week after the 10th?
I just felt there was more information that would be available to us in the budget workshop. That was my thinking. You know, I hate to just have a meeting and none of us want to have a meeting just to have a meeting. You know, we want to get something out of it and do something.
I thought maybe the 10th could be used more for looking at the debt service. How do we compute the debt service? I mean, that could be a 15, 20-minute talk just by itself. You know, you had mentioned earlier you wanted to know about the different, the ones based by the charter. Maybe that's the discussion for the 10th. I mean, that's, even before you get into the heart and soul of the personnel and the departments, there's a lot to talk about that.
Jim, you wanted to add something?
Well, if I
Throw it
may,
out.
Madam Chair,
Sure, please.
since I planned to be here at the time, I'm having a difficult time understanding why we would not want to have present for all of the discussions the finance director. I think it's a key component in construction of any budget that the person ultimately who does all the ticket taking and final numbers and all this be present when we have major discussions. My fear could be, and I don't know enough about the process or all of your individual department heads, that absent the finance director, and I'm not saying there's going to cheat or lie or anything else, just it's cumbersome to have that discussion without your key person there. So I would endorse somehow having Connie involved as you do that process, whether that's the 10th, the 12th, whatever. I'm not comfortable.
Well, we have this meeting set up for the 10th. So what we're really talking about now is the department head meetings, Jim.
Okay, so
you know, how to meet with them and what.
Again, the meeting on the 10th is for.
That's with you and the council.
Right. All right, but getting there, and again, I harken back to the process we've been using. Full county board. Each individual department has a chance to meet with the county board, and with the finance auditor, treasurer, myself, president, and the department head. So we do that, and that's fair. But all the relevant parties are there present.
We got to do that. We've got to meet with department heads individually.
Well, and
we do.
I think Jim's right. It's imperative that Connie's there. So we just asked Police Chief McQuiston where the money goes when he sells a car, and he just looked to Connie. You know.
Right.
Okay. Well, then it looks like we're going to have to schedule department heads after the 10th. Now, will you be back then that week, the 10th after that? So you're just gone the first week of August? And
That's my plan as of right now.
Okay.
But that can change.
Okay. Well, can we lay, there's, in this one page here, you all saw that, budget workshop with department heads. I thought probably it would take about about 45 minutes per department head. Now, some may be faster than others, but that was my thinking, is that we should allow that so they have enough time to, maybe they have questions of us. I talked with one department head, and frankly, he was thrilled with the idea of being able to sit down with council and lay out his own thoughts and ideas, and so some will be, and some will probably be just very, narrow in what they want to say. But do you think 45 minutes is about right? What do you think, Dave? Yeah.
Just a perspective. And the last 4 years at Polk County, sheriff's budget of well over $1.5 million. Human services budget of over $3 million. Highway department budget of $2 million. Each one of those three major people had an hour or less. Now, the mining as to what you want to get from line 32, 42, 65, 24, you can go through that line by line by line, and it's important for the council to understand that. I'm not trying to subvert anything, but that's a lot of mining to take up a lot of time when the department head, if presenting that, says, here's a summary of what we're doing in these activities. And here's the difference from last year to next year and the 3-year history. Now you got a picture. Now, how deeply you want to go, I respect the council's right to do that.
Well, I see Connie laid out here, the finance director has a huge list. So that's for sure, Connie. Now, in that, we would still have, for example, we would have the misdemeanor prosecutor come in and present his case, right?
We've never had that. No.
Really?
He's a contract.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Same with the animal controls or contracts that are approved by
So those
council.
are just line
Those are good
items.
questions, I think,
Right.
as you're saying, Mary.
I certainly want library to come in, because we're probably going to have some knockdown, drag-out fights over there at Kichigami pretty quick with the library. So, and it isn't our local board, but Jolene does need a chance to present, because there are going to be some very tough things that will have to be decided on that. So I want Jolene so that the public doesn't just get hit with something happening, like library closed several hours a week, which is a possibility. I want Jolene to be able to present. We as a library board have already had a budget meeting, and we're meeting Wednesday night, and we'll be discussing it again. But I do want Jolene to be asked to come in. And somewhere in here, I think we should have,
You've got the hydrant rent, you've got EDA, that would be staff.
okay,
EDA would be Sheila, though, we would want her
Oh.
to come in.
okay.
We could have, she's got a presentation.
Who?
Sheila Sabergate.
I was going to put her under Blade Act. Did she do it all at once?
EDA gets paid for out of Blade Act.
But could
Or
we-
Blade Act gets paid for out of the EDA
Okay,
fund.
That's the
okay.
only one that, we have in that
So
one.
you want to call that EDA or Blade Act?
It's the EDA fund, so it would be discussion of the EDA
All right.
budget, would be my take.
Hydrant, did you want BPU staff there?
That is just the pass in
Right.
and pass out. It's
So-
not even, it's just saying, this is what comes into this fund, this is how it goes out.
I
mean,
didn't
it
want
just-
them there for that, but one of our charter roles is to approve the BPU budget. It's about the only thing we have to say. And usually what comes in, they come in at the end of the year and they give you this song and dance, and you vote to approve it because you don't know what else to do. And I frankly think we ought to have them in, because we do have to approve their budget. And it wouldn't do any harm to sit down there and eyeball them and get some honest answers, or at least answers. And
If I could suggest?
yes,
Because these are items that affect the levy.
I understand.
So, but when
I
we
do.
talk about the BPU, they don't adopt their budget till the end of
I
November.
know.
But you could still have your meetings, but I'm just saying, maybe a November meeting rather than sometime right now, because it's really premature in their budgeting process. It's probably a good idea to bring them in early,
I think
but
we
I'm not
ought to-
so
yeah.
certain that now,
You're
because
probably right.
you're talking about
Yeah.
levy items.
You're probably right, but it's just that I'm so frustrated that we have to approve their budget, and we never talk to them about it, ever.
But, well, they
It's
come in and they make a
irresponsible.
presentation,
Yeah,
and
but
the
that's
council's given the
it's already
authority bill.
done.
No.
Oh, come on. Well, anyway, that's another subject.
I'm just trying to go through this list of who else you would like. Animal control is the contract you have with Mr.
Right,
Hannes.
right.
And I'd have to check and see when that one, I thought that was approved annually, isn't it?
I think you're right.
I will look it over.
But it's not during
Right.
this time period. But you're thinking you would like to have the
No.
misdemeanor prosecutor come in?
Not necessarily. I just thought maybe that was something we did, but
We typically send them a letter, our normal process. Could you confirm your rates, talk to them on the phone?
His rates are actually built in, tied to
How
what,
the
Right.
prosecution goes?
know how the city employees do. I mean,
Oh,
he's got a
oh,
contract,
yeah, that's
and
right.
we just redid it in 2012 or 2013. So what I'm hearing though is that you want the budget for the departments to be done, so you guys can go through them when you're having this discussion with the department heads, is what I'm hearing. I mean, you don't want just me to come down and say, so what do you think? And I talk about all these big things. You want to know dollars and cents of what that means.
I'd like to know both. I'd like it both ways. I'd like to know dollars and cents, but I also want the ability for some dialogue with the department heads one-on-one.
So before we
Right.
before we put this all together, because typically what happened is the department heads meets with the city administrator, myself, and the department head. We go through the line items and we figure this out. Then we put it all together for you guys. It almost sounds like the part that we're missing is that they're going to present it to you versus.
I would prefer that.
So I guess I'm still requesting then the time for the department heads to have to go through their budget, to be able to meet with myself and this new city administrator, go through the line items, so we can have a discussion
All
first,
right.
maybe help them out.
Okay.
So could we maybe make them be the week after the 10th,
I-
or the week after? I mean, just, we
Well,
have time here.
Sounds like
I
it
mean,
has to be the week after the 10th, so.
But I'm saying, give us a couple weeks to get
Yeah.
through this process instead of
Otherwise, we're
pushing it
having
to the
meetings for the
10th.
sake of meetings,
Right.
which somebody here doesn't like.
Well,
She spoke for all of us. None of us like it.
I don't honestly think that I'm relaying to you very clearly what I would like to accomplish, but I may accomplish it by hook or by crook anyhow. What I want to accomplish is some dialogue with the department heads. It's that simple. I want them. I don't want them coming with their laundry list, which is the way it's been done in the past, and say, this is it. I want them to say, these are the things that we did and are doing this year. These are the things that have worked well. Here's where we've got a little extra money this year that we hadn't counted on. Here's where it's costing us more, and we wish we had built something in here. And then I want the council to have the chance to ask questions too. In other words, a responsible way of doing a budget, which in my view, we haven't been doing too well. And that's my opinion. And I can live with what you're proposing, because I think it's the only way you're going to be comfortable with it. But I still want the opportunity to talk with the department heads. And I mean that. I don't mean that I'm going to sit there and cross out everything they've got down. I want to be able to say to them, why did you put this in? Do you feel it's a priority over this? Is there another way we could look at this? Just some general dialogue, which we don't have. And we've got some humongous budgets out there. We've got to look at potential to raise revenue. We've got to look at potential to cut corners and something. We just have to. So, okay, what else do you want on that kind?
Well, I guess if you're going to set the meetings,
If it's going to be the week after the 10th is Monday.
Or Connie did suggest even the week after that.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, the 17th.
No,
Just to
the
give
week-
them
no,
time.
I was thinking the week of the 24th.
Oh, dear Lord, that's even worse. Why do you want it that late?
I'm just saying to give time to work on it,
Yeah.
to get it together. I mean, it's
All right. August 24th is not a council
correct.
meeting. So we could meet Monday, Tuesday,
Or even the
Wednesday?
18th, 19th, 20th of August.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't want to wait, then you guys might have council meetings every
Well,
night that whole entire
now,
week. That's up to you.
what's the fourth Wednesday of August?
Isn't it the
And summer.
24th?
The 4th is the 26th.
Because I've got library there, and I don't like to miss that, because that's got a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on there. So, okay, shall we say the week beginning the 18th?
August 17th would be a council meeting.
Yeah.
So beginning the week of the 18th, is that okay?
17.
Yeah.
Well, the 17th, yeah.
I think so. I have to look at my workshop schedule. That usually doesn't start till the next week.
Okay. Does that, what do you think? Does you think that'll work for you,
I think
Dave?
it should. Let me see if I've got a workshop schedule on
How about you?
Yeah, it works for me.
So I guess what I'm hearing is saying, okay, department heads, they're looking at, the 18th, 19th, 20th, and schedule people in at those times.
As
You
best
want,
you can, yep.
we got 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. So do 3 one night, 3 the next night.
Well, and then I'd also like to have the airport come in this year. I'd like to have the airport come in. That's ridiculous that we don't even talk with them, and they want this and they want that, and we don't have the opportunity to really say, how can you raise your own revenues, which they can. And we don't ever do that. So I think it's going to take four different days. So I want airport to come in. Let's see.
And we're looking evenings, right?
I suppose. I'm
Yep.
sure the whole council's going to want to be in at 6 maybe, beginning at 6. And let's see, who else? You got EDA with Bladeac. How about the, I suppose there's no point in having the referendum people come in, the community action,
Because that's set by charter.
I know it, except the community action and the 4th of July costs are something we're going to have to talk about. Win, lose, or draw, folks, we're going to
It's
talk
under
about.
allocated under the finance.
We're
director.
going to talk about it. One
I
way
think
or
that's
the
down
other.
to $12,000.
I figure that cost us at least $11,000 this year in addition to what we give them under the referendum. And it's time that's real money. It's time we talk about that.
So the 4th of July, that discussion would be underneath the unallocated budget.
Okay,
Under the finance director.
that's good. I'm fine with it. So are we in agreement, Dave?
On
The beginning the 18th.
the 18th? Yeah.
Yeah, beginning August 18th. And you will line them up as best you can.
And you're
If we
thinking about
need an
an hour
extra
for
night,
each
we'll
one?
do it. I would say 45 minutes to an hour.
I'm interested to see how long it will take.
What do you think we should allow? What do you, I mean, I'd say 45 minutes at
Yeah.
a minimum.
Go with 45.
And, okay.
So the airport would have 45 minutes, Jolene would have 45 minutes, Bladeac would have 45 minutes, or
It's
is
a
that?
lot of 45 minutes.
No, you
That's what
can
I'm
put,
thinking. So
You
I
know,
I thought it was under the finance director, 45
right,
minutes.
right.
Engineer, 45 minutes.
I think we might
Because if we're
have,
talking meeting with the department heads, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them there.
I think we
That's
might
6
have.
hours of meetings, if they have other funds
So
and
do you
people
think
representing
that
those funds,
funds
that's in their
per time?
45 minutes.
Right, right. And if we need more time, we can always come back and set another meeting. It isn't something we can't change if we, you know.
Or if you need less time, you can have less
Well,
meetings.
that would be
Yeah.
nice. So,
Maybe it'll go faster. You never
We'll
know.
all have them
I'm
come
thinking
that
out
night, they'll all be there.
well, I just think
I
it'll
suppose
be,
if there- you can talk to them too, if there are any of them that don't feel they need 45 minutes to present what they.
And see, when I look at the engineers,
Right.
though, I see that as being a bigger one.
I agree.
mean, when you start looking at streets, you start
I
looking at
agree.
IT, you look at
it's huge.
transit. So that one I see is bigger. But then when you look at finance, if I can just interrupt, a lot of her costs are going to be set costs and salaries. I mean, it's how do you? Your question earlier was how does your programs run? Well, we've got Darla, who does accounts receivable and accounts payable. We've got Jennifer, who does payroll, and believe me, I'm just quickly summarizing. You got Nikki, who's doing the front desk and accounting, and it's all of a sudden. So which one of those programs don't want to do? And so payroll cost. Did we figure like 85% of your budgets?
Well over, on average, at least 85 to 90% of the department's budget is payroll.
So
Now, the other thing is that the charter says that the president of the council, the chairman of the PNF, and I believe the city administrator will meet and put together a budget to present to the council. And so Gary and I will have to set something up also on that. And it's simply something that can be considered. It doesn't say the council has to agree with it. But I think Gary and I have to get some kind of a date in mind here when we can do that.
with the city administrator, like you said.
I suppose we'll have to wait until Mr. Thoreen is here. But just so you know that, I think we have to do that. So I'm hoping we can make some inroads this year on the whole budget process and come up with something. I want a whole bunch of information for that budget workshop. I'm going to go right to Crow Wing County and get some of it. Because I like the way the county does their information. We have never gotten it. You may say it's not relevant, but it's interesting. For example, the county always presents, used to unless it changed, they will take a number of cities and townships and they will tell you what a home valued at, and you could pick 3 figures, 75,000, 100,000, 200,000. what homes valued at that will pay for taxes in each of the jurisdictions that are chosen to be compared with. And I think it would help us to see how frankly much Brainerd pays sometimes as you compare with some of these others. And I'm going to go to the county and get that information.
And you do that after the levy's been
No,
preliminary set?
you go as you're preparing levy because you identify if you had a 1%, 2%, 10% increase, this is how it would work.
And isn't that what we did every year at the Truth in Taxation? Say that this is what we pay, and if we lowered the levy by this, it would save the taxpayer
It's
this much money?
altogether different because it doesn't give them a picture of what's happening in the rest of the county. And I think if nobody else cares, I do. So I'm going to get it. and
I'm
it'll
just
be
curious
out
of
there.
what
Yeah.
we
I like
have
it.
provided you
I
with,
like
what you
it.
would want to
It's
provide.
not the
So we'll
same
just-
thing at all, and I like it, and so I intend to go for it. You know, because I don't feel sometimes.
So I guess the other item that I would like to discuss then is what you want to see on the October 10th. Do we still need
No, you
that?
mean August?
Yeah.
August 10th. Sorry. What do you still want that meeting, and
I
what
do.
are you looking for?
I do. What do you want?
Figured, so.
Okay. So what would you like? Because I would
What do
like
you
to
want?
prepare for it.
Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about what I expect from it.
I want to see personnel costs for the current year. Total personnel costs.
Okay, for 2015 or 2016?
Well, we don't know 16 yet, so we
Yes,
have
we
to
do.
start. Oh,
Well, I
okay.
mean, we'll calculate
Okay,
it
well,
based
no,
on current
based
staff
on
levels,
the union contract.
based on the union contracts, and based on our current
Put
our
them out then for
2014.
15 and 16.
No, I caution you. Do you want this now, or do you want your department heads to present this information to you?
It's redundant a little bit, isn't it?
I mean, then we're putting together the whole. I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what you are looking for.
I would like it. I would like it. Personnel costs. I want to know, looking at the total.
Is the August 10th meeting now going to be worthwhile if we're meeting the following week with department heads?
I don't know. Depends on,
To
how-
me, it seems like it's the same information twice.
It really
The
What
only
would
thing
be
that we're not
different?
talking about is debt yet. I can see us talking about debt on the August 10th. That's one thing I can see.
We talk about debt, we talk about unallocated, how much money is just by referendum going to other entities.
You could also, review your year-to-date costs in personnel and in capital. I would like to see all that. And you said we don't know health benefits yet?
We've asked for an update or an estimate on our ratio where we're at. Last we heard we were over 30% usage, so that means we're going to be looking at a double-digit increase again. So
Oh, no. Do you have any good news?
I'm just telling you the facts.
I know.
Good or bad, it doesn't have any difference. It's just news.
Okay. Well,
Those guys, this guy writes bad news. He
oh,
doesn't write
no,
good
he
news.
does a nice job.
There's a filter
Oh,
on the computer.
God. At some point, I want a listing of non-tax revenues. I'd like them listed out, not a pie chart with a little slash that says non-tax revenues. I'd like them listed. What are they? Police, fire, police and fire aid, whatever, non-tax
Well,
revenues.
isn't the majority of our income non-tax revenue?
Yes. It's mostly intergovernmental.
Yeah.
And you have your building permits, which this is all information that you guys got all last year.
The new budget
Yeah.
process.
And the
So that's why-
process, those long sheets that said working funds. I mean, that's,
So,
I can give you whatever you want. My job is to provide information so you guys to make decisions. So I just need to know what you want and how you want it. And that's my job.
But if we don't know now, and we go to the August 3rd meeting, and Connie's off that week, how are we gonna get you the information by the 10th? Just looking at the dates and numbers, so if we don't know what you're looking for, talking about personnel costs, that, we can get you a report on that in a heartbeat. Because you're gonna take this year's, you've already set the contracts for next year, and the non-union salaries for next year. We're really waiting for the health insurance number, which we can
We're
get an
waiting for
estimate.
LTD and those kind of rates too.
Yeah.
Is para increasing again?
No, we were able to, the legislation, our legislators helped us out.
Good news.
Yeah. It was in the league bulletin
Do
this
we
week.
know anything yet about our other insurance costs?
Well, those were going to go out. Remember the smaller ones we were going to go out for an RFP on, and I think you just authorized that at the last meeting. I'm trying to remember my meetings now. So and that was anticipated to have by end of September. Forgive me for not having the right date right here. But, so what I'm trying to understand, Connie maybe mentioned a little bit earlier, we might be saying because you're meeting on the week of the 17th, that might be the time to meet and have the data. The meeting on the 10th might be premature.
And that's kind of how I see it. I mean, and I differ a little bit with Mary. I thought the information that we got last year was sufficient. I mean, Mary wants to dig in deeper, which is fine.
But you had all the detail if you really wanted to.
But
Go
it
through
was-
line items. The only difference was the department heads done presented.
Right.
And it might be, and I think the dialogue with the department heads is
great.
beneficial. I think that's
Exactly.
I
good.
thought it was difficult to follow. And I have the budget at home, and every time, once in a while I open it and look at it, and I still think it's difficult to follow. And I think a lot of what happens is that we just accept it and move on. I don't think in general that the council has done any in-depth discussion of that. We've cut out the things that were easy to cut out, but there might have been things that we could have cut out that were harder, but we could have done it, and other things we should have left in that we cut out. I don't know. I have felt that the budget discussions were at best superficial. I just can't live with that. You know, nobody else wants the information. I'll go dig it out myself. But I can't live with what has gone on. To me, we are not elected to just be rubber stamps. It is our job to understand and be in charge of the finances of the city. That's very clear, not only in the charter, but in state law. And it is not just our job to sit there and be rubber stamps, and I think that's pretty much what we've been. And I totally disagree that last year the process was a good one. How many meetings did we sit at and just slash things? And how many people really understand? If I were to ask you right now, do you know what we slashed? I bet you wouldn't. You might know one or two. But do you know, really? It's not a good process, and we ought to be ashamed if that's all we are asking for. We've got to be more concerned. Connie and I talked earlier, big costs are personnel. We need to address that up front. We are never going to go anywhere in this city except higher taxes, and we've got to look at personnel. And what can we do to bring that under control? We need capital items. I know it. You know it. You know it. I know it. But I'm not going to sit and go with a great big capital improvement plan when we haven't done one damn thing to keep anything else under control. So, to me, we've got a lot of work to do. And we're not just supposed to be tenders of this city. We're supposed to be the people in charge. And I just, you know, I'm not an auditor, but I'm not a fool either. I know how to put figures together, and I do know how to look at things. So that's, if nobody else cares, fine. But I'm going to do the work on my own, and I will be presenting it to them.
You know, I have to say, I do take some objection to your false dichotomy that either we go with you or we don't care about the city. That's baloney, okay? You know, if you want to put that on my shoulders that I don't care, that's fine. You can believe it that way, but I don't see it quite that way. I mean, I think we do need to do more, and I think we have been doing quite a bit. I don't think we are a rubber stamp, and I do think there are times when we're set here to be overseers and not to micromanage everything.
I like that. I don't even disagree with what you said. I'm trying to get you thinking.
But it's just the way you put it. It's like, you know what? That's not the way I see it. And I think our staff works very hard, and I think everybody here is trying to do their best for the city. I don't see this cabal behind the scenes trying to, you know, I don't think Gabe got on board and said, I want to raise my taxes. You know, that's just, you know, and I appreciate you kind of taking us to task in some area, but I think you need to kind of vet your words a little bit because,
well, it's
you know,
just been such a good old boy, jolly good fellow situation. No tough questions, just yes, yes, yes. And we can't go on that. We just can't. And, you know, you can't. The other thing I want to do this year, and I'm hoping you'll be on board, sincerely hoping it, and I want you to be, But I'm adamant that we're going to do this. When we finally put some kind of a budget together, something, I want us to go out among the public and have some discussions. I think we should go to Northeast, maybe the Garfield School, or I think we should go to North Brainerd. The Congregational Church is wonderful about opening up their meeting room. I presume we could use Harrison School for the Southeast, and I don't know where we can go to Dave's house for South Brainerd. I don't know where you go. And maybe nobody will be there. Maybe nobody will come. But I'd like to try it. And so we have more dialogue with the public. I am trying so hard to get the public more knowledgeable and involved. It can do nothing but help us. So I'm hoping that the council will go for that too.
Did we
Do you
take
support
any
that?
action on 11?
What do you think?
Those are resolutions.
You're just gonna do the recommendation
Oh,
whether or not.
I thought we did, but if we didn't.
I don't remember taking
Well, why
We
don't
didn't
you
take
move?
action on it.
I thought we did.
I just gave an update of the bond
Yeah.
rating call and.
Are you moving that we do it?
Do we need to, would be my question.
I don't know.
I don't think you need to, you can do it as a full
Okay.
council.
I didn't think.
All right. I
Okay.
wasn't sure. Just wanted to make sure on that.
Thanks, everybody.
That was the